Welcome to Seeing with Your Soul, a safe and sacred place to be vulnerable, to be transparent, to be authentic. I am your host, Tisha Michelle. From the deep pain and loss of my best friend Gloria, I realized she gave me the greatest gift ever, remembering my purpose in life, which is to help connect you to your authentic self, guide you to remember your purpose, and remind you that your current circumstance doesn't define who you are. Join me as we heal, align, and glow together. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Seeing with Your Soul with me, your host, Tisha Michelle. So you guys already know how I roll, and if you don't know how I roll, I love to kick things off with just expressing some gratitude. It's actually the way that I start my day on like a daily basis is by expressing gratitude, right? So in this present moment, I'm grateful for life and its experiences. And sometimes it could probably sound a little cheesy, but hear me out, right? So in life, we have experiences, right? And for me, the reason why I'm grateful for it is because those experiences are allowing me to truly see like what it is that I like and what it is that I dislike. And because I'm having those experiences, it's helping me to move forward in life. So it's like I really know what path I want to take. And it's like I guess like an example is like, maybe there's something that you really feel like, oh man, like I feel like obligated to take care of someone. Let's just say that, right? You feel obligated to take care of someone. You don't have to, but there's just this strong part of you where you feel obligated to. So then you kind of get a dose of like taking care of like that person. Then you're like, wait a minute, no. This actually isn't for me. And this is actually not my responsibility, and that it's okay to feel a certain way, but it doesn't mean that you have to take on that responsibility. And that's just like an example. So when I say like the experiences, meaning like because you had an experience of interacting with, you know, the person or the thing or doing it on a temporary basis. And this is like, oh, so because I've already actually had this experience, you know, that this is not an experience that you want to continue to have, right? So I'm super grateful for just life and the experiences because like it's my blueprint. Having these experiences is shaping my life and helping me to not only move forward, but also release certain things. Right. So I'm also grateful for the past week that I spent in the pool. I have been meditating and floating in the pool. So I can tell you guys, if you want to shake things up in your life, meditate while in the water. Oh my God. Super, super, super powerful, and just plain relaxing, man. So now your turn. So let's go ahead and center ourselves. Unless you are driving, always got to put that out there. Go ahead and close your eyes. So go ahead and close your eyes. And now I want you to take a deep breath. So we're just going to take a deep breath, breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Again, deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. One more time. Deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Doesn't that just feel good? Getting centered. Okay, so what are you grateful for? You guys, I want you to really like dig deep, scan your life, literally scan your life. So in this present moment, what are you grateful for? Say it out loud. Say it in your head or write it down if you're journaling or whatever. Just express that gratitude. Put all of that out to the universe and watch how the universe continues to bless your life, right? Okay. So last month, I had the pleasure of being interviewed on the Soul Lift by Motherhood podcast. And I can tell you, when embarking on like your spiritual journey, most people, and I'm talking about myself as well, don't have a lot of people that they can have conversations with when it talking about like angels and manifesting and spirituality and like our ancestors and the gods and goddesses and guardians and just all aspects of spirituality and how it connects to motherhood and how it connects to our life. So it was like, what's that saying? Like a breath of fresh air. So it was like a breath of fresh air when I was having the conversation and being interviewed on Soul Lift because I was free. Not to say that I'm not free to have conversations, but when you can like have talk about something and people like totally get it, like they understand it, just feels good because there's no sense of judgment and you don't have to be like, oh my gosh, is somebody gonna think I'm crazy or whatever the case. So it was really dope having that conversation. So I wanted to share this conversation with you guys. So in this interview, I talked about my story, we talked about spirituality, and we talked about motherhood. So I hope you guys enjoy this.
Hey everyone, it's Leena and Megan from Enlightenedhood.
Welcome to Soul Lift, where we're vulnerably sharing motherhood stories that don't fit the rhetoric we've been taught to believe. We're getting real and honoring all truths, sharing journeys from women who are using self-empowerment, mindfulness, and spirituality as a means to create their own path.
Through this global anthology of mindful and spiritual motherhood stories, we hope that by giving these brave women this platform, we can heal together and all feel a little less alone. There is so much power in our story, and the more we can share and help those who come after us, what a beautiful world this can be. One where we all know our own strength and beauty. So we hope you find inspiration here today and find empowerment and validation in your own truth, because everyone can use a soul lift.
This is Tisha Michelle, and this is my story.
So I know your most recent, biggest spiritual awakening happened when you lost someone. So could you tell me about that and what happened?
Oh, for sure. So December 29th, 2017, my best friend Gloria. So she's my best friend of 22 years, but she is also the mother. I mean the sister of my ex-husband. So, and we have 3 kids together. So she's their aunt, so it's more than just like a best friend, that's family. She went to sleep and she didn't wake up. So it wasn't like it was something that, oh, this is coming down the line where you can like that fake prepare for it. It was like, I just talked to her, you know? So of course that was devastating. I'd say to even say it rocked my world is just like, I can't really put any words to it. So, I was still struggling with just trying to understand like how could this like really happen, and because there's a part of you that believes that we just grow old and then we die, which is a story that was made up because we know that's not the case. We know some people will have like miscarriages, right? So it's not promised, but yet they still didn't understand it. And after the funeral, I remember I kind of just shut off from everyone, and I'm the person that everybody goes to for everything, right? And I remember when I first found out. I'm sorry, I'm gonna back up. When I first found out what happened, like my kids were having a breakdown, and there was nothing that I could do for them. Like I couldn't console them. I couldn't say it's gonna be okay. I had nothing. And for anyone that actually knows me, it's like I have the answers to everything, right? And I'm able to just help so many people, but I couldn't even help like my kids because I didn't understand it. So after the funeral, um, somehow I was home by myself. I was home by myself and I went into the closet to get something up at the top. And when I went to, I think I was looking for some scissors or something, and I ended up grabbing the program. The program was up there. I had one that was already placed on the stand, but I had an extra. And I grabbed that. And of course, I just start crying. I'm sitting in the closet, right? I'm not talking to anybody on the phone. No one's there, and I'm on the floor, and I'm talking about bawling my eyes out, like can't breathe. And I just kept saying, there has to be more to life than this. There has to be, because if there isn't, I don't want to be here. So I'm not gonna say I was suicidal, but at the same time, it was like, if there's no purpose, there's no point. I don't want to be here. And I didn't realize until I fast forwarded that in that moment, I was forced to go within. So again, there was no one home and I wasn't talking to anybody on the phone. because people would have things to say, and not to judge them, but they would be like, oh, God just needed another angel. And I'm like, okay, so what you're saying is that higher power is selfish. Okay, bet, I got you. You're like, I don't want to hear that nonsense, right? That was nonsense to me. So I just wasn't talking to anybody. And I was forced to go within, and I just kept saying, there has to be more to life than this. There has to be more to life than this. And whoever I was talking to, I'm not going to even say that I was praying. I was just talking. I was just talking. And I started to get my answer. I started to get my answer that there absolutely is more to life than this. And you talk about the, earlier we were talking about the rabbit hole, right? I want to say it was probably a couple of days after that breakdown that I had in the closet. And back it up, in the closet. And when I was in the closet, I also had a selfish moment. So before my best friend had passed away, I went to her about it was a personal situation. It was something I was battling, and she helped me with it. But there was a part two to it. And when I was crying, I was like, what am I supposed to do now? I don't talk to anybody. I don't tell people my business. Like, what am I supposed to do now? You're not here. Like, I don't know what to do. And fast forward a couple days later, her sister called me and was like, hey, I want to let you know that I talked to this psychic. And she already believes in all that woo woo, and they call her a witch and all that stuff. So it wasn't shocking that she said that. But she was like, man, she was so valid. Everything that she was saying, and it is no possible way that she could know these things and all this stuff. So I was like, give me her number. I was like, give me her number. So she sends me the number, and I was like, how much does she charge? She's like, I don't know. It was because her aunt had paid for it for her, right? And I was like, I don't even care how much she charged. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna figure it out. And just a quick little back thing, like I don't believe in any of that. I didn't believe in any of the woo woo and talking to the dead or any of that stuff, even though I grew up in that family, like with my mom and like my grandmother very heavily into, like spirits and stuff, but I was always afraid of it. So I just didn't believe. I just shut it down. Now I know it's because past lives I was killed for healing and doing that. So in this incarnation, I shut that down. So, but I wanted to hear something so bad from my best friend that I stepped into the unknown. I was like, I don't care. I'm gonna face these fears and I'm gonna go because I needed to hear something so bad. And I ended up booking like a session. Like she called me back, and she just so happened it was like 2 days from then. She said, I can talk to you. It was on a Sunday, and I was like, bet. Still, then she tells me the price. I'm like, how am I gonna pay for this? I was like, how am I gonna pay for this? But I had a couple 2 days to figure it out, and it ended up working out. But yeah, so I went down that rabbit hole that opened me up to there is more to life than this.
So then you went to the psychic, and what did that transformation look like afterwards? How did the doors become wide open to your spirituality, and what was it like to step into that version of yourself?
So it was done over FaceTime, right? So I remember leaving out of my house, and I went because the kids were home, and I went to the parking lot of like this McDonald's in the library, and I get on FaceTime with her, and the very first thing after she gets her quick little spill, she says, "Your dad's here." I just started crying. So my dad, passed. My dad was only in my life for like 2 years, so I didn't fully like know him. And I was like 14 at the time. So he had passed. He died. So she mentioned about how he died, and no one could have possibly known that because I didn't even talk about it to like my family on my mom's side. So all this stuff she was giving and saying to me, there was no way that she could know this other than being to something somewhere. So in that moment, I absolutely knew that there was more to life than down here, this human stuff, right? And it opened me up to just so much. And I said, "Oh my God, this conversation with her was amazing, and I so needed this." I was like, I'm good. I probably won't get another one for another 6 months, right? Cool. That same night, I text her because so much stuff started coming. But yeah, so I sent her a text message. I was like, "Hey, it's me," da da da, and I just started. I said, "Hey." One of the things that she said to me, she was like, "You have this gift." She's like, "You can do this." I was like, "Do what?" She's like, "You can tune into people's energy and, the medium and all this stuff." And I was like, "What?" So I was like, okay. So she kind of guided me. And when she guided me, everything just opened up, and everything around me and life just looked different. So yes, I was still in the same house. Yes, I was still going to the same places, but everything looked different. I started seeing these signs, and I started saying like, oh my gosh, I realized that, spirit was connecting to me through numbers at first. That's how it started. I got into numerology and stuff. So that transformation has just been so powerful because now I know that there's so much more than the limits that have been placed on me, the limits that I put on myself. And I truly know that there is a higher power. And it's just been amazing, amazing, amazing since then.
How has it changed the way that you relate to your kids or being a mom?
Oh my gosh. I just got so much more wisdom for them. So I have 4 kids. So 9, 14, 19, and 22, right? So I definitely believe that it's brought us a lot closer. And I say that because they gosh, we've experienced so much stuff together now. Like our conversations have shifted, so there's not like that much of like that fear, right? Or they're even more opening to like just be yourself. Like with my daughter, I'm like, I don't care. Like as long as you're not harming yourself or anyone else, like I don't care. Like it's okay. I remember at one point when my 14-year-old, she would always change her mind about stuff, and I would get on. I'm like, you need to pick something. You need to figure it out, and like you need to stop. And now I'm like, oh hell no, I can't believe I was saying that to you. Like I'm like, no, it's okay. And I know that she's exploring. So it's definitely changed with me being more open and allowing like my kids to like be who they are and to rediscover like who they are. I would say probably like the biggest thing would be like my 9-year-old, because I'll tease all the time to my oldest one. I'll be like, oh my God, I really jacked you guys up. But the 9-year-old, like my 9-year-old, because he's still young, that I'm able to like, instill so much more into him to being like himself. That sometimes he'll be like, I'm just being honest. You told me to be honest. You told me to speak my truth. And I'll be like, boy. But I'm able to show them, open them up to a different perspective, and understand that there's no one size fits all when it comes to life, that there's many different routes and stuff that you can go, and just different perspectives. So I'm able to come from a whole other way that it's brought us all like just a lot closer.
Let's rewind to when you first became a mom because you were a teen mom, right?
Yes.
What was that like? Was there a lot of resistance? Was it unplanned? What was that version of you as a teen mom like?
Okay. So I got pregnant at 16. So the interesting thing is my mom was pregnant at 16 with me.
Mm.
And then I repeated the cycle, and I got pregnant at 16, but it was with my high school sweetheart. We ended up getting married. So here I am, 16 and pregnant, and no one knew except for him. And I had her at 17, and I hid the pregnancy. I just went about my business, was wearing like, I was really known for fashion and stuff in school anyway. So just wearing like oversized, sweatshirts and like at the time, like jumpers, and just chilling, just pregnant, no prenatal, no nothing. I would just drink nutriments, vanilla nutriment, and I would eat grapes all the time. And when I think about it now, I'm like, what was I doing? So, I'm 16 and pregnant, and at the time I was still in school. My mom didn't know, nobody knew, like I said, other than him. And even my best friend, which is his sister, she didn't even know, right? So I'm just going through life at 16 and just pregnant. And it really wasn't until I was working at Pizza Hut at the time, and my mom was one of the managers there too, and she bumped into me. And I
Mm.
didn't know at the time, but when she bumped into me, she felt my stomach. So she said to my boyfriend at the time, she said, why, later on that day was like, why didn't you tell me that Tisha was pregnant? He was like, I don't know. I was like, dude, she totally tricked you. Like, so that's like how she ended up finding out. So at this point, I'm 8 months pregnant. 8 months pregnant now, and everyone's just finding out. And then I get to that first appointment at 8 months. And I remember the doctor saying, I don't know what you've been doing, but continue doing it because you're great and baby is great. And I was like, well, I've been drinking nutriments and eating and grapes and stuff. And yeah, so then I had her at 17, and God, I mean, I was a kid. I was a child, but I've always been around a lot of older people. So now I look, I'm like, oh, that's because I'm an old soul. So I was definitely a lot more mature, but I was still like a kid. So it was interesting because one of the things that had popped into my head was the cycle stops now, because my mom was pregnant at 16 and then I was pregnant at 16. I was like, yeah, that's just absolutely not happening. And it was one of those things where it was a feeling. It wasn't like I raised her and said, don't you get pregnant. Don't. It was just like, that's a non-negotiable. I made this, even at a young age, I made this decision that I put out into the universe. I didn't know that's what I was doing, but I put out to the universe that it stops here. Like it stops here. And yeah, so 17 and having a baby.
Wow. So you've given birth across many years of your life in different versions of you in different
Absolutely.
places. But I mean, the main purpose of this podcast is to acknowledge that spiritual awakening that happens within motherhood and on the other side of motherhood. Were all of those experiences and all of your different kids, what was that like? Because I can imagine as a 17-year-old, that's a lot different than when you're in your 20s and your later 20s.
Oh, absolutely. So this is why I said when I look back at being 16, 17, I made that decision where I said that the cycle stops now. That was my higher self was saying, this is a part of your lesson here. This is a part of your lesson. And I didn't know it then. So it happens in all of the stages. It just looks different for people, right? So I know that it started then. And by me putting that, I was like, oh yeah, this stops right here. And then I had my son, which was still younger at 2 years, 2 years afterwards. And that was another transition for me because after I had him, I went into the military.
Mm.
I went into the military. So and I was married, right? So that was another part of like my when I look back at it now, I was like, okay, here's the shift now. Here's my second child. And I was like, oh, isn't this perfect? I had one girl and one boy, and I was like, I'm done. I'm done. And then I went into the military. So I was away from them through like the training. And that alone was hard. But what actually got me through that training was just knowing that I was doing this like for them. So that was another shift because and again, this comes from me looking back at it. In that moment, I was like away from family and everyone, and I'm in the military, and there was a lot of things in front of me that I didn't think that I could overcome, that I couldn't get through. And I learned this new the inner strength. So there was my spirituality. There was my going through that was like, okay, yeah, you're a lot stronger than these limits that you're putting on yourself. Like you could do this, right? And there wasn't no cheerleader or anybody to like hype me up. It was just me. So that was that transition, right? And then my third child, which is crazy, we ended up getting a divorce, right? So we got a divorce, but we had her after we got a divorce. I said, "Oh, spirit God, you funny. You real funny with this." But I see it was like that soul contract between me and him was over, but I still needed to have my third child with him. Like that's literally all that came out of that. And I was like, okay, so there's a higher purpose for her to be here from me and him. So then there was that, that transition. And then my last son is that's not by my ex-husband. That was very another shift. And I know because there's big things to come with all of my children. And I remember I'm getting my tubes tied. And I went to go get my tubes tied. This is after the third child. And I get to the hospital, have the appointment. And you know how they come and get like the anesthesiologist, and my blood pressure was sky high. And they was like, "Are you nervous?" And I'm like, "No." They was like, "You didn't think so?" I'm laughing and talking to them, having a good time. They were like, "Your pressure's high." And I'm like, "I'm perfectly fine. Nothing's wrong with me." And as I'm laying there, the anesthesiologist was like, "I can't do this." He said, "We have to stop this. I cannot safely have her go under with her pressure this high." So I was like, "What? I can't get my tubes tied?" Oh my gosh. A month later is when I had my son. I got pregnant with my son. I wasn't meant to. Like I wasn't meant to get my tubes tied because I had to have my youngest one who was just he's so spiritually in tune and just his own like, person. So really just like what I'm saying all that to say is that when we're bringing in another life, it is a high form of your your spirituality, whatever your spirituality is, however it is that you connect, it's super powerful and it looks different in every aspect. So sometimes when you're going through something, being pregnant or even going to get like your tubes tied or even going in postpartum, like it's still a beautiful thing, even though in the middle of it, it doesn't feel like it. But there's something,
Mm-hmm.
there's this shift, and there's calling you to, whether it's to surrender or look at, as an invitation to, go within and really see where's the message, where's the lesson, like what is coming about into that experience. So in the middle of it, some of it looked like a mess. And I was like, upset that I couldn't get my tube side. But now when I think about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I couldn't imagine life without, my youngest. But he, for whatever reason, he needed to be here, and I needed to be his mom, and his dad needed to be his side. And that was another whole shift of me looking at how God, the universe, has always been with me in every single thing. And the biggest things were, the birth of my children.
I know for many of us, having that kind of awareness and acceptance is kind of a hindsight looking back on it
Mm.
and realizing that all of these things had to happen. So, what advice would you give to a mom who is stepping into her spirituality and coming to terms with pregnancy, postpartum, birth, motherhood, and having to heal that and recognize the gifts and the power? What advice would you give for that processing of all of it?
One, I would definitely say, come to terms with, there's no such thing as coincidence, or that everything that happens in our life is meaningful, is purposeful. And you may not know what it is in that moment, but just know that it's meaningful and it's purposeful, right? And then it's also, whatever you're going through, take a little bit of time out to go within. And I've had people who say, well, what does that even mean? Like, go within, just be with yourself. Be with yourself and your feelings. So even if you're feeling wonky, or you're feeling depressed, or you're feeling like you're crazy, just have a conversation with yourself and feel it. Feel it. They're your feelings and they're your emotions. So sit with them and then just say, why do I feel like this? Why am I feeling like this? And you'll get the answer. You'll definitely get the answer, whether you get it in that a memory will pop in your head, or you'll just feel something, or someone will say something on TV that kind of just resonates with you. But this is where you're getting like these answers of quote unquote why, right? Um, and then also I would just say, one of the hardest things to do is surrender. It's just coming to that place of surrender. And when I say surrender, like stop pushing against the water. Whenever we're feeling I don't even really know, like we're feeling crazy, or we're feeling sad, or we're depressed or something, like what are you holding on to? What is it that you're holding on to? Versus coming to that place of just saying, you know what? God, the universe, anybody out here that wants to listen to me, like I'm good. I'm gonna surrender. I'm gonna let you do your thing. And that's is where things start to get a little more clear. Because for one, you don't have all of that pressure on you that makes you feel like you have to figure it out. You have to be the perfect mom, and everything has to be perfect. And it's like, no, it looks different for everyone.
So you discovered all these gifts, you're stepping into that power. As your life started to change, did you find resistance from other people in your life becoming that more spiritual version of you?
So it's so interesting, and I don't know if this is to come, but um I haven't, which was like, I'm like, wait a minute, I hear like it's a lonely path, and and stuff like that, but I really haven't had too much of that. But what I did realize was that I've built a good reputation for myself, that a lot of people who don't quote unquote believe in that or look that other way, because I'm saying it, they're like, oh, it must be true. And I was
Mm.
like, oh, okay. So before I walked into my gifts and started doing my own readings and sessions with people, I was sending everybody, her name is Jessica, who was the one that was in my reading. I was sending everybody there. And people were literally saying, like, give me her number. Oh, if you're saying this, then I know this has to be true. And I was like, oh, y'all rock with me like that. Okay. That's that's cool. But yeah, so I didn't have really too much of resistance. I did have some people that I know, like on social media, like unfollow me.
and a couple of them that I noticed, they were like Jehovah Witnesses, and I knew them because I used to study with Jehovah Witnesses. And then I noticed, I guess because I would talk about the universe and spirit and stuff, that they, they unfollowed me, but they weren't people who were super close to me. And the only reason why I even noticed one of them, because I was like, oh my god, I haven't seen her funny videos in a minute. And I was like, oh wait, she unfollowed me. So it came like, from that part. But what I've also noticed is that a lot of people are now calling me and they're saying, hey, this is going on. Like, I know you can help me to see another way. And I'm like, I got you. So it's beautiful, because that means that they're starting to open up to understanding that it's not a one size fits all, and that they're in their own way. And I want to, see something different, especially when it comes to parenting. I've been having a lot of, like, my friends and stuff, they'll call me about something that they're going through with their child, or the way that their child is, I don't want to say behaving, but things that they're displaying and stuff. And they're like, please help me to understand this. And I think that's beautiful too, that they're wanting to, instead of just being this strict thing and saying, no, it has to be this and has to be that to their child, they're like, hey, would help me to see something different.
Yeah, I think that just goes to show too how authentically you must have been living. And then it's kind of just a no-brainer to evolve into that next version of you.
Yeah, and I didn't really realize that. So I'm just like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I'm like, that's pretty cool, but so that also taught me a lot about, like, myself too, and how people viewed me. Even though the ego part of me didn't think that people even looked at it like that for me. So it's been refreshing.
Okay, so then what about the resistance within? What were those self-limiting beliefs, the
Ooh.
ego that you had to overcome?
Oh my gosh, man! When I first started having, like, my sessions doing the readings, I would hold back. I would hold back on things to say, because I didn't trust myself, and I wasn't confident in it. And I remember one particular, I held something back that, to be honest, it involved something with a child that was being done to, like, their child. And I refused to say it, because what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong, and it tears the family apart, and then people want to come after me or something? So I didn't say anything. I was like, no, that's not right. And I just kept my mouth shut. And then they ended up having a session with the person that I put them on to. And she said it, it came out in there. So then when they said it to me, I started crying, and I was like, I got to be honest with you. I said, I got this information intuitively a week ago. And I was just crying, and this person was just like, it's okay, like, I get it, I understand, I'm not blaming you for anything, and they, not that they knew what was going on, but they felt something, there too. So that was me resisting, like, my gift, and not accepting, like, who I am, and understanding, like, that level of power in the most humble way, because it's always for a person's highest good. So in that moment, I vowed, I said, I will never hold anything else back from anybody. Whatever it is that I get, I'm going to give it to you, and whatever you choose to do with it is what you do with it. So that was probably the big, is just having that level of confidence. Or the other thing is, I would get off the phone with someone, and I would literally be like, I totally made that up. Everything I said, I totally made that up. But again, that was the confidence.
I think one of the biggest things that when we start to tune in and listen and trust and surrender is exactly what you said, of that idea of the ego, and that, or even when we're meditating and we see something that, oh, I just like, that's just my imagination and I totally made that up. So what advice would you give to a woman who is starting a spiritual practice and needs that confidence boost to trust that it's not just her imagination?
I definitely would say, when you look at it, we operate off of two things. We operate from love, or we operate from fear. So when our ego is talking to us, it's coming from fear. It's keeping like, no, you're not powerful. No, you didn't get that. And it's always a fear base. But when you start to feel something or hear something, and it's not, fear, it's not that you're afraid of anything, that's coming from a place of love, and that's when you know that you can trust it. The other thing too is, when you feel it in your stomach, that's your intuition, and when you feel it in your chest, that's your fear. So really pay more attention to, like, your body, and be in tune with your body, because our body is something that will never ever 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 lie to us. Our body is always in tune. Our body will let us know who is right for us, who's wrong for us. If someone's saying something to us, and if it's just like, I don't know, or even just like within yourself. The other thing I would say is just understanding that our head will make up stories that our heart doesn't understand. So if you ever hear people say, "Oh, you got to come from your heart," like that's true. So when you start to either spiritual, practice, and you're like, "I don't know about this," or "I'm probably just making this up," and all, like, those are stories that you're starting to tell yourself. So this is when, again, like, connect within. You can even do something as put your hand on your heart and just breathe. Just breathe, because you're centering yourself, you're grounding yourself, and you're connecting back to that heart space. And just know that the things that's coming to you is coming from that place of love, and you'll know when it's fear. You'll definitely know is when you start making up all types of stuff. you know.
What does your daily practice look like?
Oh, so when I wake up in the morning, I lay in the bed for a little bit, and I always set my intention. Always. That's like a non-negotiable for me. I have to be very intentional with what my day is, because other than that, it'll just be haywire. So I'll set my intentions, and then I'll state something that I'm grateful for. And sometimes I go longer in the conversation with myself, or I just might be like, I'm just so grateful for everything that's in store for this day. But I always want to put that level of like of gratitude out there. And then when I get out of bed, I stretch. So it's a big thing for me to stretch, and the whole point of that is to move the energy around that's in my body, because we'll get a lot of stuck and stagnant energy into our body. So I'll stretch, and then from there it kind of shifts on a day to day of what I do. Sometimes I'll go into my little room and I'll pull like a oracle card for the day, or sometimes after that, then I'll just go get ready, go to the bathroom, all that stuff. And then I'll go outside. Like some of the days I'm like, I have to get outside before anything, before I'm doing a session, before I'm, hopping on the phones. I need to go outside and get some sun or just some air. But the setting the intentions and the stretching and what I'm grateful for, like, those are my non-negotiables.
Now that you've truly embodied the fact to be able to tune into other people's energy, is that something that you can shut off? Or is it or is it a constant kind of ebb and flow? And how did you create that boundary to not constantly be affected and bombarded by everyone else's energy?
Oh my gosh, that's something I still work with. So definitely in the beginning, I had a hard time shutting it off. So I would have sessions with people and I wouldn't close it. So then I'd go throughout my day. And then one time, this is probably like a year ago, I got sick and I went to get a Reiki. I happened to go to this metaphysical store, and the guy was in there doing like, 15-minute like free Reiki sessions. And it was my first one. And in the middle of it, he said, "Do a lot of people tell you their problems?" I was like, "Oh my gosh, yes." And he said, "Honey," he said, "you are filled with so much gook." He was like, "Have you been feeling sick?" I said, "Yes, and tired." And he said, "Your energy is being drained." I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's what this is." And it was because I was holding on to everyone's stuff and I wasn't closing, I wasn't shutting it out. So after that, it opened me up to understand that after whether I have a conversation with someone as a session or even just a stranger or person, to close that out and just say, this session is closed. You can leave now, meaning like the energies and the entities, and just to close that out. And especially like right now in this present moment, I'm even more sensitive. So I've been tapped into so many people's energy, not even just my clients, but just in general, that I don't even know what's mine.
Mhm.
So the other day I literally felt like I was going crazy, because I was like, I don't know why I'm feeling this. Is this my feeling or is this someone else's? So I found myself taking more showers just to get into there, to just cleanse and just imagine that energy going down the drain, and really just keeping a lot of things closed, because yes, you can get bombarded, and I do. So I had to create some boundaries.
What does spirituality mean to you?
Mm. So to me, I feel like spirituality means connecting to a higher power, whatever my higher power and my higher source is. Like that's what that is. And understanding that there's more to life than the surface stuff that you see. And that's my definition of spirituality.
What would you say for any woman who says that she doesn't have time to be more mindful or spiritual, or that kind of practice isn't for her?
I would definitely say then you absolutely need to be more mindful. The fact that you do. I would really say to like all jokes aside to like that person, to just do a little bit of research to understand what mindfulness means and what a spiritual practice is, because a lot of times what I find is people have this definition that was given to them from somewhere else. So people feel like, oh, I don't have time to be mindful, I don't have time to meditate or create this practice because I'm so busy. So they feel like it has to be this huge thing, but honestly it could be 2 minutes a day. 2 minutes a day that you shut everything out. And when I say shut everything out, you just go in the bathroom, you go in your car or whatever, and then you just breathe and just bring yourself back to this present moment. And in that present moment, understanding that you're okay, like you're good. And just even taking that little 2 minutes can help shift the energy throughout your day.
Thank you for listening to Soul Lift, presented by Enlightenedhood. For a complete library of mindful and spiritual motherhood stories, visit enlightenedhood.com/soullift or find us on Instagram at Soul Lift Anthology. Also, be sure to follow us, Enlightenedhood, on Instagram at Enlightenedhood. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to #certified. If anything resonated with you, I would love to continue the conversation. You can follow me on Instagram at @itistisha. And if you want to be a part of the #certified tribe, you can join my Facebook group by going to the search tab and putting in #certified. My website is conversationswithtisha.com. As always, have a great one on purpose. Love you.